Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Times Lakers show. I'm Dan Woike. I'm the Lakers beat writer for the LA Times, joined by Brad Turner, a man who traveled the country just recently with the Clippers, who will be traveling the country with the Lakers when I tell him I'm not going on any more road trips. It's a conversation we'll have later. Thanks for tuning in. You're finding us on YouTube. You're finding us on the LA Times website through the ways you get your podcast. Basically, you're just finding us. We have a lot to talk about today, but most importantly, BT, we're going to have a very special guest. Our first ever in-studio guest here, Jeanie Buss.
Wow.
It's going to be super fun to talk to her about the way she interacts with fans, about the state of ownership in the NBA, about things that the league is trying, like the in-season tournament. It's really exciting that she's going to be here.
It's a great thing. I've known her for a very, very long time, and I really want to talk to him a little bit about her dad, Dr. Jeanie Buss.
Loves talking about her dad. So we got that. We got a ton more to talk about, so let's get right into it. We are about 3 weeks into the NBA season, BT, right? Right around 10 games. Okay. As we tape this, we've got one tournament game under our belts. Can we just start with the tournament? I like it. I think I am open. My personality is one to be open to silliness and to be open to change and creative ideas. I thought I would hate the courts in person. I didn't. The Lakers will, by the time this gets released, the Lakers will have played their home game. In photos, I think their court looks spectacular. I think it looks super cool. And I was in Phoenix for the first playoff game or play-in game or tournament game. What are we calling it? Do we have a name for it?
Isn't it called the in-season?
IST. The first
in-season tournament game?
Yeah, the first ISTG.
IST.
The first IST. And I will say, atmosphere was pretty good.
Really?
Felt special.
Well, when that game came on, I was back home in Pasadena after having traveled to New York with the Lakers' other team that they don't like a whole lot, the Clippers.
Yes, they're on the list.
And so I did watch it. I had to turn my TV down a little bit because it was bright. Look at that court.
How did it look on TV? To your experienced eyes.
It takes some getting adjusting to.
Yeah.
Because everything looks a little bit brighter than it normally does.
Yeah. My biggest in-season tournament concern was, would it feel different enough?
Did it when you watched it?
I did. I thought so.
Really?
Between the uniforms, the presentation. So, what Phoenix did is, they did their thing is about, it's a Spanish-themed, for the Valley and Chicano culture. And so, their intro video is, lowriders, great music, and it matched the courts. It was a vibe, I think as the kids would say.
You're a kid, Dan, but go ahead.
No. But I think, it felt a little different. There was a little more juice in the game, I thought. Now, it's hard to totally separate it from the fact that both the Lakers and the Suns were, desperate for wins.
Yes.
So, that game was inherently going to have some juice and some energy. But, one thing that happened in that game that I thought was super interesting is the Lakers were up 6 with 1.9 seconds to go. What did Frank Vogel do? Do you remember?
He called the timeout, right?
He called the timeout.
Yes.
And he ran a play for a 3. Why would you do that? In one part, to work on end-of-game situations. Another part, point differential is a tiebreaker in this. And so, I do think, in the moment that stuck out to me, I was that is a little bit of a different wrinkle. So, look, man, we've talked about this here. We've talked about it. NBA does have a problem. They need people to care about their games, turning games into events. It is one of the things the league is trying to do. You mentioned your kind of idea with the courts. Can I give you an idea? I think every team should play one home game in a specialized venue. Go play a game at SoFi or Dodger Stadium. Figure out a way to do some version of a stadium series.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm not going to cover that game. I'm telling you that now.
If you're Milwaukee, play it at a cheese factory. Do it somewhere some version like that, some iconic building. Maybe it's the old Bradley Center. Maybe it's some old amphitheater in town or something like that. Maybe you can retrofit the Forum and you can do it for a game. There's some version of that. That's what I think would be another fun wrinkle to this.
The Forum is owned by someone else right now.
It is.
I'm quite sure he would build them very, very highly.
What have you learned, BT, about the Lakers so far? They are, as of today, 500. 5-5. Real kind of meh feeling. What have you learned about this team?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing because it's still 10 games And the window you want to look at
20.
is 20 games.
But you can learn something.
That's when you really, well, then that means you're not a very smart person, which I am not, and neither are you. But being half smart is not a good place to be. Well, honestly, I've learned that this team, the depth that they have, has helped them at least to be 500. And no, they can't shoot a lick at all.
They won a game on Sunday where they shot 21.1% from three, which is like a death sentence in the NBA. Like, you do that, you lose. I think I looked it up last year, you lost more than 3/4 of the time. This year, I think only 4 teams have shot worse than 22% in one games, and it was the Lakers did it twice. So, like, I think to me, like, that's troublesome. And 10 games of not shooting is it's sort of on the long end of a slump. Like, a team can go 10 games and be just sort of in a weird rut. It could also be maybe this team isn't going to shoot the way we thought it would. Like, it's also kind of right in between sample sizes. You mentioned their depth. I've been a little so-so on it. I think it's really hard to judge, though.
It is.
When you don't have Jared Vanderbilt, you don't have Gabe Vincent. These guys are important players. Rui Hachimura missed a huge chunk of games. Can I talk about Rui Hachimura? Recent star of an anime, Rui Hachimura. Do you know what that is?
I do not. What is that?
It's a cartoon.
Explain that to us, Dan.
It's a cartoon.
Okay.
That's all I know about it. But Rui came back from a concussion. The Lakers got boat raced in Houston by the Rockets. Horrible performance. Rui, though, in his first game back, good energy, cut, hard screens with LeBron James, caught some passes on rolls, got to the rim. To me, unlocked something that the Lakers weren't doing. And I find this, BT, when I cover teams, like when a guy does something that no one else is doing, it looks like it's just an highlighter. You know, like 2 years ago, and when Austin Reeves was a rookie, and like he dug in and played defense on that team that had all those veteran players, and so it really stood out. Like, he looked like, oh my gosh, this guy's drawing charges, playing defense, like stuff like that. This year's version of that, I think, is cutting and hard screens, and Rui Hachimura did that. I think that, for the people who wonder, was last year's playoff thing a flash in the pan, or is he potentially a winning player? I think I'm starting to lean towards he could be a winning player.
And that's whether he starts like he did on Sunday, or whether he comes off the bench.
He's going to come off the bench, I think.
He will come off the bench, but you know, if you plug him in as a starter, he can be productive.
All right, we got a lot to talk about today. Jam-packed show, I mentioned it. Jeanie Buss is here. We're going to talk to Jeanie Buss about all sorts of fun stuff. And then we are also going to talk later about just kind of like some things, like now that we're like getting into this, I think we can half learn some truths about the NBA, and I've got some half ideas.
You want to half learn again, huh? Is that why you went to 15 colleges?
Just stack it up. Half credits at all of them. Half credits at all of them. Dan Woike, Brad Turner, Times Lakers Show. Stick around. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the Times Lakers Show. As you can see and you're about to hear, we have a very special guest in studio at the LA Times.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Jeanie Buss, you're here. Jeanie, it's so good to see you.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me down.
Jeanie, we've had some great conversations over the years. I love talking to you always. And one of the things I definitely want to talk to you about, and I don't think people maybe are totally familiar with this part of your story, is like you've been in like some level of promotion when it comes to like sports since you were, 19?
Yes. Okay, that's good. That's safe.
Right? Like,
don't go like 40 years.
No, I said 19. So since last week, you started in promotions in sports. No, but like, how has selling sports as like a product changed? This is like the in some ways like the rise of cable and how that's changing now to wherever it's going to come next. What do you think has been the biggest change in your short but experienced time?
In the early 80s, when I was at school at USC, if you wanted to get study anything about sports marketing or sports management, the closest class you could take was like sports information, which was like a PR communications class.
Yeah.
So now when I look at the sophistication that goes into sports marketing, the sports business. It's kind of like that analytics movement that has been embraced by the basketball side of things.
Sure.
Business has really, it's changed so much in the last 30 plus years in how we approach the fan experience, how we package, selling, our sport to advertisers, to broadcasters. It's just, more and more information, more and more data, so that you can really identify who your audience is and the best way to reach them.
When you walked in, you looked up and saw a picture of your dad. And then there's Chick Hearn, there's Pat Riley, there's Kobe, there's Shaq, Fish. I don't see Magic on this
Well,
side.
to be fair, there's Tracy Morgan and Shaq, too, over there from Saturday Night as well.
So, there's Phil there.
Yeah.
What do you think when you see those pictures?
Just, I feel at home. I feel like I'm surrounded by some really strong personalities that have influenced my career. And, the blessing that I've had to know and work with so many great minds and professionals, and what I've learned from, a Pat Riley, which is different than what I've learned from Phil Jackson, and watching, just the different eras of Lakers basketball. I'm pretty lucky.
Jeanie, I'm relatively, when we talk about the wall and we talk about your life with the Lakers, BT's been around the organization for a long time. I will date you for like 75 years, BT's been here. Seeing you and seeing the energy at Crypto.com last year, late in the playoffs, a feeling that you guys didn't get in 2020. So if we kick it back, we're talking, it's been a decade really since it felt like that. Yeah. How did that sit with you being there? And I don't know, again, I think maybe people don't realize if they see you are not hidden away in some suite somewhere, you are in it. How did that environment sit with you? And I don't know that you guys be even more hungry for championships, but did that kind of even reignite some of that too?
It absolutely did. When you think about where we started the season, 2-10, 2-11, and at that point you kind of feel like, are we ever going to be able to dig our way out of it? And so the idea that we got to the trade deadline, the All-Star game, and the momentum started to go in a direction that, hey, now we see a team that's kind of coming together. And then they started making a run for the play-in, and we're going to make the play-in, and then we win that game, and then we start winning rounds in the playoffs, and you just get swept away. And it is a familiar feeling that we haven't had in a long time, but as Laker fans know, that's what we're used to as Laker fans, is going late into the season, into May, hopefully into June. And, I didn't want it to end. Certainly, we came up on a Denver team that was, headed their way to a championship. And, so it was tough to lose to them, but it was kind of nice to knock off the sitting champions when we beat the Golden State Warriors. So when we headed into the offseason, the conversation around the office was, let's just stay on this roll. Let's bring this team back and build on it, and and see what we can do.
Yeah.
I'm going to say congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
I was in Paris when you got married, of course, and I had a bottle of wine to celebrate.
Thank you.
Then a second bottle of wine to celebrate. I saw you on Media Day. I parked right behind you. You parked on the streets for some reason. That allowed the media people to have parking spaces.
Yes.
Okay, well, we thank you for that. But I told you, I've been around this for a long time. Yeah, I'm old. But I was excited about this team.
Yeah.
And your response was, so am I. Why? What makes you excited about this year's Laker team?
Well, I think, you start with the coach, Darvin Ham, who, was in his first season as a head coach last year and, didn't get the opportunity to have a full training camp with his entire roster. And, so, putting him in a position where he could, start the season with the team and the vision that he wanted to accomplish in training camp. And then, just some of the new faces that we brought in that we haven't really seen have a chance to play, and I'm thinking of, Gabe Vincent in particular, after seeing him compete in the NBA Finals. He was somebody that I was excited to see play for the Lakers. He's a California kid, so we're bringing him back home. And, even though I was sad to see a player like Dennis Schroeder go and join the Toronto Raptors, I took a lot of pride in watching him play at the World Championships, and the way he played and was, the way he played in our playoff run, it makes sense that he really shined in the world competition.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And he won awards that he deserved to win. So, I just was, I just felt optimistic and excited to see, how, but every season takes its twists and turns and has to unfold the way it's going to. And, and here we are.
I think a lot of people maybe, and I know I was one of them, expected sort of day one to feel like Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals in some ways, right? Like that it's like, but you, having done this, like that, it does take a while and teams do change and one ingredient here or there can make things different, not necessarily worse, but just different. Do you think back to your experience? I mean, you guys have tried to repeat, you guys have you've gone to conference finals and had disappointment in the final. Like, do you have to remind yourself, like, this is a process, this takes time, and patience is maybe an underrated virtue in some of this stuff?
From the fans' perspective, they don't like to be patient.
Sure.
Although I do believe Laker fans understand the game and like to see a team build and not just go out and buy a championship. They want to see the continuity, the growth, the young players with veteran players and how they help each other out. But, Laker fans have been spoiled or, as they should be. And, but.
A lot of trophies in your window at the office.
Right, but,
Not participation trophies, not like the one that my 4-year-old got for T-ball. These are the real ones.
But, as you were saying earlier, it's been a long time since we've hosted NBA Finals in our arena.
Yeah.
And, and we want to get back there. And so all of us are, impatient to get back there. But, things have to happen the way they're going to happen. And that, that's the Zen teaching from Phil Jackson.
Very good.
You have to,
yes.
You have to, as things change and stay the same or whatever the saying he used to say to me 100 times a day. Really, it's about, it's a journey and, just put your seatbelt on because it's going to be a ride for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to speed that journey up. How cool would it be to have the Lakers and Boston Celtics playing in the NBA Finals to break that tie to see which one gets to 18 first?
That's how the writers in Hollywood would write it.
Now
right?
that they're off strike, now we can do this. Now we can talk about they're back to work on this one.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that You know, and I'm very good friends with the governor of the Celtics, Wyc Grousbeck. And people are like, well, how could you be friends with him? And I'm like, you know, I have such an appreciation for what the Celtics mean to us because they help us define who we are. And, you know, you have to respect your opponent. That is, you know, that's the lesson that we hope that sports teaches our young people, that you, at the end of the day, you have to shake your opponent's hand and, you know, compete with grace and compassion and professionalism and all those things. But yes, if we're going to win 18, I would like it to be over the Boston Celtics.
Yes. The last question I have for you, Jeanie, is you are in the room when the league has these meetings about, I mean, you know, we're taping today before the Lakers' first ever home in-season tournament game, an idea that I know the league wants to take hold. You mentioned the play-in, a thing that I think people were a little skeptical about.
I was.
and it's been, to me, they're some of my favorite games of the season. Like, they feel so important, and the intensity in those games are great. What do you think the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest challenge for the league, because I think people know, like the challenge, the media landscape's changing, but how do you think sports fans, Laker fans, are going to consume your product differently down the road than maybe the way they do today?
What's important to us is that we give everybody the option that they're most comfortable with. So, you know, for the people that are my generation, my age, you know, it's just, I just want to turn my TV on and see a game. I don't want to have to like sign on and get my phone and two-factor authentication.
Yeah, here's your password. You got to make sure you've got a special character in there.
Right. So, you know, but, you know, and for the younger people, I'm now a stepmom to a 12-year-old, and he watches everything on his phone. So, you know, that's how he's going to want to watch NBA basketball. So what's important is that we know who our customer is and how they prefer to watch the games, and that we deliver it to them in a way that's easy and convenient.
My last question is about your dad, who meant so much to a lot of us, including a young reporter like me. He would actually talk to me. He would say, Brad, and I was like, oh boy, am I in trouble? But how proud would he be of you right now, and how much do you think about his influence in your life as an owner?
You know, I think he was proud of me, you know, when I, you know, the first job I had was as general manager of the LA Strings and team tennis, and winning a championship at 19 years old. You know, he was proud of me then, and I think he would be proud of me now. You know, people, you know, ask me what my motivation is, and my motivation is, you know, to finish what he started, which was he felt that Los Angeles should have a team that could rival the East Coast teams, that the media had a bias towards the East Coast teams like the Knicks and the Celtics, and he felt that, you know, LA was kind of disrespected, so he wanted to give LA the best team in the NBA. And here we are, one championship away from you know, realizing that goal that he had. And, you know, that will continue to motivate me as well as our front office, and, you know, trickles all the way down in our entire organization. You know, I will continue to, you know, I kind of like to make a joke because, you know, one of my hobbies is stand-up comedy.
Yes.
And so I make a joke that I feel like I still report to Dr. Buss as my boss, and that's probably why I haven't had a raise in, you know, over a decade. That's a good joke. But anyway, you know, he is my, you know, he is my inspiration.
Well, Jeanie, thanks so much for coming and joining us here. Our first ever in-studio guest on the Times Lakers show. Hopefully you'll come back someday. Maybe, and if not, we can FaceTime and you can be the skeleton. If you want, we can do that as well too. All right, stick around for the next segment here on Times Lakers Show. Wow, Jeanie Buss was great, BT. Unbelievable. What an interview. My mind is blown.
Well, Dan, it doesn't take much to blow your mind, but it was Jeanie Buss, so.
All right, so what are, like, we were talking about this in the first segment about half-truths and 10 games, and, like, I do think this is sort of where you can start to find kernels of truth. Little things we might know later. We've talked about him every show, BT. We should talk about him today. James Harden and the Clippers. All right, you saw it up close and personal.
I did.
What was sort of your takeaway from that small sample size, and kind of do you have any big picture thoughts on it?
Number one, the key word I kept hearing, and we were still hearing, is that James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook are tiptoeing around each other.
Okay.
Because they want to make sure the other guy is comfortable.
Everybody wants to do the right thing.
And right now, they just aren't. Now, as you said, I spent a week with them in New York. By the way, love the NYC.
Highly recommend.
Had a good time. Drank some good wine, of course.
Ate some good food, I saw.
Ate some good food. You were correct about that. But there was one point where I asked James, think back to the last time you were that wide open for a shot.
Sure.
And he thought 8, 9 years ago.
Oklahoma City, maybe.
And that he hesitated before shooting because he couldn't believe he was so wide open. Missed the shot. The next time, he hesitated again and got the shot blocked by Mikal Bridges because he's thinking this is not possible. So if you're thinking the game and not playing the game, which is what it appears that they're all doing, then that's not a good recipe for success.
So I had a conversation, and one of the things I like about this space is, like, we can talk about, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this conversation, if I will write about it at some point, if not, but I want to share it with you. I had a conversation with a young player in the NBA who's, I wouldn't want to say struggling, but attempting to find his footing, right? Trying to find what his role is going to be and stuff like that. And he said, we were talking about it, and he's like, I told him, I'm like, I don't think people understand how hard this is to, like, find a role and, like, get good at it. And he said, they don't understand how hard it is. In fact, it's bleeping hard, right? Like, didn't say bleeping, it was an NBA locker room. But what that player then proceeded to, what we talked about was sort of like this notion of, like, you have been an A-plus, A-level performer at every stop from probably 5th grade on. And then you finally are now around people who are better than you. And not just, like in some cases, much better, relatively speaking, to your standing. And you have to figure out how to turn what you were good at into production that impacts winning and that you can also still feel good about. Like, when I talked to this player, we had mentioned the fact that, like, in the game that we talked about, he got into the glass a couple times, extended a couple possessions, got him out in transition. He had no points, but it felt like he had played a little better. And it's just weird to kind of think, like, you know, you've got to turn that. Now, that works. That's a player trying to level up into a role, right? It works, I think, twice as hard to go backwards.
Oh,
like,
no question.
Like, someone is going to have to be on this team, BT, the Chris Bosh, the Kevin Love. These are all power forwards. I don't know why I'm picking only power forwards.
But here's the key, though. Chris Bosh was in Miami with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James.
Sure.
It was 3 of them.
Yep.
Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James in Cleveland, it was 3 of them. We're talking about 4 top-notch players.
Yeah.
How do you make that work? That's what hasn't been
Well, I mean, I think
done.
Russell Westbrook has shown that he can step back a little bit and complement in other ways.
Yes, he has.
Okay? So, like, I want to focus on Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George. Because those are guys that all, in some ways, put their value into scoring. So how are they going to impact games when they're not scoring? This is a question that I have with the Lakers. I think it is I mentioned Rui Hachimura in segment 1. Him figuring out ways to impact the game when he's not scoring is critical to this team.
Right.
I think they need to find D'Angelo Russell. Needs to find ways to impact winning when he's either not scoring or throwing assists that lead directly to scoring, right? Like, how else can you do it? Can you do it with point-of-attack defense? Can you grab a couple extra rebounds? Can you win a 50-50 ball? Like, that's how great teams are sort of born. They're full of those guys who do the things that don't get into the way of stars, I guess, for lack of a better term. Your stars score, and you find these other guys to kind of other do stuff. So I want to talk. There's a couple teams I want to talk about.
Okay.
On this last road trip, I was in Houston, And I mentioned Lakers played like trash. Part of the reason, though, maybe the Rockets are good, BT.
They are right now. What are we?
What's the long-term?
3 weeks into.
We're 3 weeks in.
Into the season.
What's the long-term argument against them?
I mean, I think they've defeated some teams that have had players out.
Sure. Anthony Davis did not play.
Did not play in that game. They've
beat Denver.
I'll say this, which has Jamal Murray out, correct?
Sure.
The second best player. I mean, it's not to put them down in any way. They have a really good coach in Ime Udoka. Mm-hmm. That serves them well. They have a player that wears people out, Dylan Brooks, that has played well for them. They have a player that's won an NBA championship, Fred VanVleet. Mm-hmm. That helps. And their young guys are now looking up
Sengun,
at veterans to talk to about this.
And they've got, I think sometimes we talk about trends in the NBA and stuff like that. I mean, I think last year, there was some baby Jokic talk about Domantas Sabonis in Sacramento as a passing big. Alperen Sengun in Houston.
Sengun is
that
nice,
dude
man.
can dish it, man. He is a good player.
Nice.
Jalen Green played awesome against the Lakers. Crazy athlete, can shoot it. They've got some depth, too. They've got some young talent. You mentioned a good coach. Sure, why not on the Rockets? And here's the thing. Every time a team like them is good, it gets harder for the Lakers. It gets harder for the Clippers. It gets harder for these teams that are stubbing their toes because the West is loaded. I was talking with a executive within the Lakers organization about this the other day. We were just talking like maybe part of it is just that the West is really, really good, and you're going to have to be really good to be good in it. And if you're a team that's off to a slow start, maybe that's part of it.
To that, I'll say I talked to an executive also about the talent level in the NBA.
Loaded.
And I asked him, has the fact that the league has become so internationally known, has it made the league that much more fun? And you have so many more teams that are really, really good because there's more talent to go around than there was in previous years.
Sure.
And he says he thinks that there are, but his team is not playing well. So he's a little nervous because his guys should be one of the top 4 teams in the league. He loves the idea.
Should you talk to somebody who works for the Lakers?
But hates the idea because it has affected their team.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Do you have a surprise team or a disappointing team that you like early on?
A surprise team. Yes.
Who you got?
Philadelphia.
Ooh, I like it.
I did not see this happening even after they traded James. Joel Embiid, MVP, yes. Maxey's
Tyrese Maxey All-Star campaign? Did you see that coming?
Yes. So that team has, without a doubt, surprised me.
I got to tell you something. You're going to laugh at me. Every time I read Tyrese Maxey's name, I hear like Murder, She Wrote by Maxey, like the Maxey Priest song in my head. Maxey. Like that part.
Is that what you hear?
Yeah.
Dan?
That gets me every time.
Oh, I'm sure it does. And
I enjoy Sixers highlights
any
because of
team
it.
that I guess that's been disappointing. Well, honestly, it's the Clippers. Even though they made this
I'm not
trade,
there yet on them.
Well, at this point right now, I spent time around them, and I expecting to turn it around, but you don't want to keep falling too far down.
Yeah.
Like the Phoenix Suns, injuries have hurt them.
Yes.
You don't want to keep getting behind, and then you make this push to try to get into the top 10 or the top 8, or even the top 6.
Yeah.
You have to start making up
The
ground
Suns' fourth quarter
now.
problems are real so far. Devin Booker will help, I
Yes.
think. But like they have some organizational issues. They don't really have a point guard. That kind of makes sense. We've seen
Right.
teams struggle that way. Boston has been fantastic. Good pick for
been
by
very
you
good.
early in the season. I think healthy Denver looks like a juggernaut.
Oh, yeah.
They look so good. Surprised by the Bucks struggling a little bit?
You know, I am to a degree, but they don't have the depth that they had in previous years. And I watched one of their games, and I think Dame sat out. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it was just to give him a little rest. I don't think
Yeah.
he's hurt. But I'm surprised that they are just sort of like right at 500.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
You said something earlier that I think is interesting, and I don't know if average fans understand like the process of like figuring it out. We were talking about that because we hear D'Angelo Russell talk about this a lot, and we've heard it from LeBron and Anthony Davis. guys like want to do the right thing. I think
Yes.
generally speaking, like when you're within a team, I think you want to win, you want to make the right play, you want to make the right pass. But like sometimes like it makes you a little more passive. Like that these are all like sort of alphas and you want to actually see these guys like kind of step on the gas and take control. Now, there's a counter to this, and that it's never worked really in the NBA. You cannot play your turn, my turn basketball. You can't just be like, all right, Kawhi, you have 3 minutes. Now, Paul George, you have 3 minutes. Now, James Harden, you have 3 minutes. That does not work. I think there were some positives in the way that they played against Memphis, even though they lost, where they got Norman Powell involved and stuff like that. They recognized he had the hot hand, and so like they played through him a little bit, and they, but again, this stuff has to sort itself out, right? Like there needs to be a hierarchy. It just makes things easier.
I think back to the Laker days during Showtime when they were just great. It was Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy.
Who was the leader?
It worked. Really, it was Magic Johnson. Point guard, more vocal. Kareem was this quiet person, very intelligent, just did his job and went home. James Worthy came into a team that had won championships before he got there, so he just fit in. You look back to the Boston Celtics, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird. You could throw DJ in there, Dennis Johnson, or was it Robert Parrish? Could it be Danny Ainge? But they had their big three. We're always talking about a big three. The Clippers, for whatever you want to say about them, have a big four because they all believe they are top level players.
They're all going.
And they are.
They're all going to the Hall of Fame.
And
all four.
They just can't.
Don't give me this.
figure
Paul
it out.
George is not a Hall of Famer nonsense.
No.
He will
He
be in
is.
the Hall of Fame 1,000%.
And they are passive around
Ice
each other.
Cube is going to be in the Hall of Fame now. Did you get that email?
No,
Like
I did not.
he can do it. He put his back into it. They've got four. You've got
Yes.
4 Hall of Famers on this team that are all like kind of prime-ish too, and like
Then again,
it's a talent level that we
the
don't
key
see.
word they keep using is tiptoeing around each other.
I don't like to hear that.
Because of the respect they have for each other's game and the individuals that they are.
Are you at all surprised at how well LeBron James has played this season?
No. No, because he's taken care of his body since he was, 2 years old?
He's been stretching. He told us that the other day. He was stretching in the womb. They thought he was
And
kicking. He was really doing Pilates.
He probably was. Mine probably still mad at him because of that. He's a marvel.
He invented icing.
I mean, it is amazing to watch him still perform
Like all he cares
at a high level. Now, he's missed one game because of an accident that he and,
Sure.
Kevin
That
Durant.
felt a little scheduled too, maybe.
Well, maybe so.
It
But the
seemed
fact
like a
is
good
that,
time anyways, but like,
Oh, why not?
yes. So BT, last season, around LeBron James, I saw that guy yawn more than I think I've ever seen a pro athlete yawn in the course of a season. And it was because early in the year, Game 10 felt like Game 92. The problems were the same as they were in the spring before, and they were still trying to figure them out. They were still trying to solve the same puzzle. Imagine if you had a crossword puzzle in front of you and you couldn't figure out 15 down, but you couldn't do anything else except stare at 15 down. Like that was sort of the state of the Lakers early in the year last year. And we saw that exhaustion carry into, it ended up being an actually physically long season too, but an incredibly mentally one. And I think that's part of the reason why he teased retirement at the end for the first time. I think it was a lot of reasons, but I think one of them was he was exhausted. He was gassed. This year, energy has been excellent from him.
It has been. But can I say one thing one critique about him?
Give it to me.
I want to see him rebound better.
Okay.
I want to see him put some energy into rebounding and
Boxing out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair
And
critique.
that's not a small thing. That's a big thing because you give up offensive rebounds. The other team gets more shot opportunities. You play more defense.
He said something in Orlando about how he's never been one to conserve energy during the game. And I don't think that's totally true. I think that he is someone who is a master of he has the foot on the gas the entire time and knows when to press hard, when to ease off, and he's been doing this for 21 years, BT.
21 years, man.
That's your levels of commitment to basketball. And yet again, they put Ice Cube in the Hall of Fame, BT. You've given 21 years to this league. You friends with the right people?
Let me tell you something. None of that matters to me.
Oh, it matters to me.
I'm just glad to be still doing this.
I want you to have a good day.
And I'm glad to be able to go home soon enough and drink up a bottle of wine.
I wanted to say something on a blimp that BT is in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just glad to be here, Dan.
I'm happy for you too. I'm happy you're here too. A lot of basketball coming up, BT. Another big road trip before Thanksgiving. We'll be back here next week. Tune in on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, email BT all the time. Just pound his email.
X us?
X us.
Whatever that means. Tweet us.
Thread me.
Ooh.
Blue Sky me. No, I don't have a code. And then you can listen to us wherever you find podcasts. This is exciting. You can hear us in your car. You can watch us on your computer, on your phone, in your house, on your TV. I'm going to say it nice and creepy. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll do it again next week, BT.
Looking forward
to
it, Dan.
Thanks again to Jeanie Buss.
Yes.
Round of applause for Jeanie Buss for coming through.
Absolute best.
Talk to you next week.